today it's just an introduction session. I'm here to talk about some, few basic concepts, and then we can walk through on this overall scope, what will be covered in, as part of this training. And then if you have any questions, we will be at the end of the session, we'll be having a QA. Okay. So before getting into this, I would like to talk about Prism Central and DR, but we are not going to spend more on today because since it's a introduction session. I take few minutes to talk about these two, and then we can get into QA session after we finish this. Okay. So you believe Prism Central is very important one because people who attended my training, you have a good understanding about Prism Central, and you may believe that Prism Central is very, very important. But a lot of people come up with this question. Prism Central is one too many. I mean, if I have multiple cluster, I want to I can use Prism Central to manage multiple cluster, right? But just a question here. If I have just single cluster, do you think do we still require Prism Central? Maybe you can unmute yourself. You can answer. If you don't know, that's fine. But people who have an understanding about Prism Central, probably you can go and give a try. Do you Prism Central is one too many, like to manage multiple Nutanix cluster? Like you have a vCenter in ESXi, likewise here we have a Prism Central. But do you think Prism Central is only required when if I have multiple clusters? Okay, you can use the chat window. You are unable to unmute, maybe use the chat window because we want to have a QA session maybe later stage. Probably use the chat window if you have an answer. So do you think PC is mandatory if I have one cluster? Rahul says yes. What about others? We can use Prism element. Okay. So how many of you say Prism Central is required, Prism Central is not required? So Wasim says it may not be required, so we have Prism element, we can use that. And Rahul says yes. What about others? Sai, Praveen, you want to go ahead and give a try? Okay, that's fine. So we have two components, PE and PC. So PE means one-to-one cluster management. Okay, and PC means in general one-to-many cluster management. Okay, that's a major difference we actually discuss a lot. But here, but there are a lot of customers come and ask me, hey, I don't have multiple cluster, it's just single cluster. So PE means one-to-one cluster management. So I don't need Prism Central, right? Answer is no. You still need Prism Central. I don't say mandatory, but getting a Prism Central enables, a lot of features for you. So PC for single cluster is also a better option. I tell you why. Okay. So in PC, if you have Prism Central, you can create categories. You can create categories. Category is nothing but tags. In AWS, we use tags, right? So category creation can be done only in the Prism Central. If you don't have Prism element, you will not be able to create categories. Okay. And then central image processing. Okay, so to create a Windows VM, to create a Linux VM, we upload ISO files. If you need a centralized image service, then Prism Central is important. Okay, and then there is something called intelligent operations. And capacity learning. So now I have a running cluster and it is almost 6 months over. Now I'm planning to deploy new workloads on top of the existing cluster. Let's take you are going to deploy VDI and you have no idea whether this existing cluster is capable of accepting the new workloads because you make provision 100 VMs for VDI and you are not sure whether you have the existing resources in your cluster is capable of accommodating this new request. Then you will have to use capacity learning, and this help you to find out whether the existing cluster is capable of accepting the 100 workloads, or do you need additional resource. If you need additional resource, how many nodes you require, how much of CPU memory and storage you require for node basis. The complete information suggestions will be provided by capacity learning. Intelligent operation is part of operation. These are Prism Central features. Then projects. Project is nothing but multi-tenancy. Okay. And then SSO login, and then RBAC, role-based access control, or IAM creation. This is an advanced one. P also has certain roles, but that's very, very minimal. If you need advanced role, you have to go for IAM, which is support only on the Prism Central. Then we have something called playbooks. Okay. So playbooks means, let's consider a scenario. Every Friday, weekend, and a lot of people are ordering food. Friday, fun Friday. So evening time, a lot of people use Swiggy or Zomato to order food. So if you compare weekdays and weekend, obviously, the weekend there would be a lot of traffic because I mean internet traffic to the Zomato or Swiggy, because a lot of people try to order. So weekend it is a very high, but weekdays it's very normal. So suddenly weekend there will be a big spike on the utilization. So their infrastructure should be in a position to accept all this changes. So suddenly they need more resources because weekend a lot of people are using the app, so a lot of traffic coming. So their server needs to be in a position to handle heavy load. And suddenly the weekdays the utilization goes very low, and they need to free up the resources. When they need more resources, like weekend, a lot of people are trying to access. They provision more VMs with more CPU and memory. And weekdays less traffic, less usage, so they will remove unnecessary VMs and they free up the resources. Okay. So generally, how they do, let's take a scenario. They want to add CPU to a VM every Friday. If your VM supports hot add, then you don't need to power off the VM. Otherwise, power off the VM. But before powering off the VM, Friday, maybe CPU utilization goes greater than 90%. So when I have a greater than 90% of alert for CPU, trigger an alert. So you get an alert by email or notification. Once you have the alert, you log into the infrastructure. You go to your VM, power off the VM, add CPU, then power on the VM. Okay, this you are doing on Fridays, and then Monday, what do you do? The utilization will be very low. You have to go and power off the VM. And remove the CPU, then power on the VM. Okay. So these you generally do it manually. We need some way like automation. I don't need to sit in front of the system to check, every time where is, is there an alert or not? Sometimes you may miss it, right? Because you can't continuously sit in front of the system to monitor this. There is a possibility for human error. You may miss this. So instead of putting an administrator to monitor this continuously, why don't we have an agent who can do this monitor? No, this is where we have something called playbooks. So playbook is something where I set my workflow. Say, I create a playbook to add the CPU. So let's take a playbook. Name of the playbook is add CPU. So when it needs to add CPU, when there is an alert of 90%. If there is an alert, you need to add CPU. Okay, there is an alert now. After alert, what it needs to? It needs to power off the VM, then add CPU, then power on the VM. So these workflow, I need to set it for the playbook. So playbook is nothing but collection of tasks. What is the task? Add CPU, add memory, power off the VM, power on the VM. Anything can be, depends upon your use cases. But I'm giving an example here. So to add CPU, you follow this, because when there is an alert of 90% utilization of CPU for specific VM, go and power off the VM, add CPU and power on the VM. And then next Monday, you have to remove the resources from the VM. So this something you can do it with Prism Central, and the feature Name of the feature is playbook. That playbook is supported only from the Prism Central. These are the different reasons we have to, we still have to recommend Prism Central for single cluster. So generally Prism Central to manage multiple cluster. If you have 100 cluster, you may need to log in 100 cluster every day. Then, if I ask you to use Prism element, you have to open 100 Prism element browser, right? In a browser, you have to open 100 Prism element. But now with just one Prism Central, it helps you to sort out that problem. You don't need 100 Prism element now. One cluster, one Prism Central is fine to manage all the multiple or all the 100 cluster. But if I have one cluster, then why do I need Prism Central? I may not need Prism Central. That's a common question you get it from customer. But now you have an answer. Even if you have a single cluster, you may need Prism Central. Reason Prism Central brings you a lot of features like categories, central image processing, intelligent operations, capacity learning, projects, multi-tenancy, RBAC, IAM playbooks. These are supported features from Prism Central, and these are the reasons we have to go for Prism Central. Next, how many Prism Central I require? How many PC I require? If you have a single site, then you must need one PC. If I have multiple site, how many PC I require? If I have multiple site, let's take a scenario if I have 3 sites. How many Prism Central you require? Use the chat window. So, okay, there is one. I see a lot of people are posting one. What about others? Chakrada says 2. Ajay says scale out. One more one says 2. So I have 3 sites going with 1, 2. Okay. Nateshwar says 1. Others? See, this training, we are not going to cover any basics. We are only going to cover the, architectural one, because after end of this training, you will be in a position to design and deploy the Prism Central. As Prism Central is a very important component in the infrastructure, we also need to do proper design and proper planning for Prism Central. Okay, here there are a lot of, with respect to Prism Central, a lot of designs there. So we are going to cover that in this training. And I'm not going to cover anything on the basic side. Okay, a lot of people have answered 1. Okay, and I see nobody have responded with 3. 1, 2, I see that, but 3 is not there. Okay, so you can take 1 PC or 3 PC, depends upon the requirement. Okay. Somebody posted 1 PC, but port required to open. Okay. 1 PC is also valid one, but 3 sites, 3 PC also a valid design. But which one I should take? I should go for 1 PC or 3 PC. That depends upon the DR configuration. Okay, I guess we can manage multiple PE from a PC. Yes, that's great. That's something we discussed, right? Multiple PC or multiple cluster can be managed using one Prism Central. Multiple PE or multiple cluster can be managed. So now we are good with Prism Central now, and then we have an answer question for PC. Does PC is important if I have one cluster? That answer we have it. Let's take a scenario now. A customer is having 3 sites. Now, how many Prism Central he requires, or how many Prism Central domain he requires? That's a question. So a lot of people responded with 1. 1 is also a valid answer, but we also have 3. But 1 or 3, you can't decide. Your customer will have to decide. Okay, because before deploying the Prism Central, we have something called DR. Okay, this DR is going to do a very key role, and PC deployment is depending upon this DR. I'll tell you next how DR is relevant, or it's related to the Prism Central deployment. Okay, let's take. I have a site in Chennai. I have site in Bangalore, and then Hyderabad. Okay, in Chennai I have 3 clusters running. In Bangalore, I have probably 4 clusters running. And then Hyderabad, probably 2 clusters. This is my requirement. So in this case, how do you deploy your Prism Central? That's a common question, right? So do you deploy at Chennai or Bangalore or Hyderabad? Where do you deploy? Okay. So now option 1, I can deploy dedicated Prism Central to dedicated data center. Okay. So this is PC domain 1. And then I have PC domain 2, PC domain 3. Okay. So every site I'm giving a dedicated Prism Center because every site, let's take another location now, Delhi. So in Delhi, I have 1 cluster. Okay. I can go with another PC domain. So we already discussed PC is, that help to manage multiple Prism element. And even if you have 1 Prism element, PC is, going to bring a lot of value that we discussed. So now I have 4 different locations. In every location, I deploy Prism Central, different Prism Centrals. So if I deploy 1 Prism Central in one site, then that will be promoted as availability zone. Okay. If I have 1 Prism Central in one data center, that Prism Central domain is going to be availability zone. So in this case, how many availability zone I'll be having? How many availability zone? 4 availability zone. Yes. So availability zone 1 and then 2, 3, 4. Right? 4 availability zone. This is one design. Okay. And then there is a second design. I will use single Prism Central. So now how many availability zone I have? So I have single PC now. How many availability zone I have? Okay, Ajay says 1. Manmohan Chakradhar all says 1. Yes, you are right. We'll be having 1 availability zone. Yes, it's going to be a single availability zone. Okay, so generally what is preferred? I'll come back to that. Okay. So these are the 2 different Prism Central deployment. One, you can give dedicated Prism Central to every data center. Otherwise, you can go with a single Prism Central that can manage all the clusters. Okay. So next, where do you host this Prism Central? Like in this example, I'm deploying this Prism Central in a location. In Chennai, you have 3 clusters. Where do you deploy this? You will choose 1 cluster from Chennai to deploy the PC. You can't, use multiple clusters. Multiple clusters can be registered under one Prism Central, but when you want to deploy Prism Central is a VM. Okay, PC is a VM. So this VM need to be created by you. When you deploy this, you will be asked to select, cluster where you want to deploy. So you don't deploy this PC VM on 3 different clusters. From the Chennai, you have 3 clusters. From there, you choose 1 cluster to deploy this PC VM. So in this case, here as well, 1 VM will be elected in Bangalore because you are deploying Prism Central in Bangalore, then Hyderabad, then Delhi. And here, what about here? Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Delhi. Here, where do you deploy the Prism Central? Right? You can choose any one of the location. Okay, we don't have any recommendation. You can select, any location, but that location can be, probably be a centralized location. Okay, we'll pick one location and we deploy Prism Central there. So now, Prism Central, how many Prism Central VM? Do we deploy single VM or multiple VMs for Prism Central? Use the chat window. Prism Central is a single VM or multiple VM? I see two answer for single. Ajay, Sai, you want to give a try, Abu? Just say single. Okay, so PC can be deployed as a single VM or 3 VM, which we refer scale out. Okay, PC can be deployed as a single VM or 3 VM. Okay, so if I deploy, let's take in Chennai 3 clusters. I choose one cluster now. If that one cluster is running with 3 nodes, or let's take 6 nodes, 6 node cluster. Okay, so if I want to deploy Prism Central 3 VM now, these 3 VMs gets distributed into 3 different hosts. Okay, that 3 VMs never run on single host. These 3 VMs gets distributed to 3 different hosts. And if the node fails, that VM will be migrated to other host where the PCVM is not running. So you have a 6 node cluster, 3 nodes, 3 VM is running, remaining 3 nodes are free without it doesn't run, Prism Center doesn't run on remaining 3 nodes. If one node fails on the first 3, this VM will be migrated to the 4th node or 5th node or 6th node. But it doesn't migrate the Prism Center VM to a node where another PC is already running. Another instance of PC is already running. So it makes sure that these VMs are getting distributed to 3 different hosts, not in the same host, by using anti-affinity policy. Okay, there is a policy called anti-affinity. When the Prism Central gets created, at the back end, the anti-affinity policy gets created, and it makes sure that these VMs are getting distributed to 3 different hosts, and they should not run on same host at any cost. Any cost, these 3 VMs never meet in single host. These 3 VMs gets distributed to different host. It never run on the same host. Okay, so PC is a single VM or PC can be a multiple VM. Which is best? 3 VM is best because you have a highly resilient. Is it a CVM? No, CVM is different. Prism Central VM is different. CVM is AOS, PCVM is a separate OS. Okay, CVM is different, Prism Central VM is different. Don't confuse. CVM comes with a node PC you have to deploy additionally. Okay, when you want to deploy it, it will ask you want to go for single VM or 3 VM, you can decide. But 3 VM is the best option. But again, single VM and 3 VM has certain dependency. You can't blindly take 3 VM or a single VM because before choosing that, you need to understand the resource. So which OS Prism Center has? It has a Rocky Linux OS. It's a custom Rocky Linux OS from Nutanix that will have a Prism Central appliance running. Okay. So now PC type, Prism Central type. Okay. So first is single VM or 3 VM that we got it. Now, next we have X small, small, large, and X large. These are the different variation of Prism Central we have. So each has certain resources. Like small means it has very very minimal resources. Small means this is bit additional resource, like the CPU and memory is bit higher than the X small. Likewise, if you go X large, that's a maximum, and that will have maximum resources required for Prism Central. What is suitable for your environment, that again you need to clearly study about your environment. So this training will help you to decide which is suitable for which kind of a scenario. Okay, after completing this training you will also get a clear understanding about all this, and you will be having a good understanding to recommend different type of Prism Central to your customer. Do we have 3 nodes in a cluster? Which cluster? Sorry, your question is not clear. We are not talking about any cluster here, and we don't have any cluster now today. Do we have 3 nodes in a cluster? I really don't understand the question. Maybe you can reiterate that. Okay. So once the customer decide like, hey, I want to go one Prism Central, or I want to go, site-wise Prism Central or single PC to manage all the location. Once the customer decided that, then the next question is what type of appliance you want to deploy. You want to deploy small, larger, or X large. X small is probably it's not recommended for the production. That's for a different use case that we will discuss in the upcoming days. PCVM can sit only on the single cluster. 3 VMs cannot be distributed to 3 different hosts. 3 VMs can be distributed to 3 different hosts within the cluster, not between the cluster. So VMs can be deployed within the cluster only. It cannot be stretched, or it cannot be deployed across different clusters. That option is currently not supported. Okay. Got it? Got it? Okay. So as I said, the next question in front of you, which one you want to take? I'm not going to talk about that today. So we will discuss this in the Prism Central, module. But I'm going to highlight what are we going to cover. These will not be covered in any training. This is only in the advanced training, and this is something we are customizing it. Here we will deploy this because this is very, very important in the stage of design. So if you are focusing on design and architect kind of a position, then you should have a clear understanding about all this. Okay. So because when you receive a bill of material from the customer, they say that they have a Prism Central license, but the bill of material doesn't tell how many PC you require. So that you need to sit with your customer to understand, and then customer will ask you suggestion from you. You have to tell them that all the suggestions and recommendations. Then he may have a follow-up question: why are you recommending this, or why are you suggesting this, right? So you should be in a position to answer all that, and end of this training you'll be getting a clear answer for all this. Okay. So next, I'll cover this later in the modules, Prism Central module. Next, once I decide something like probably if I decided with larger, next my question is this. Okay. So how many Prism Central we are going to deploy? Are we going to deploy single PC to manage all the site, or multiple site? This is very important in the case of DR feature. Okay. So in the DR, we have something called advanced DR. Okay. And the name of the DR is, the old name is LEAP, but now it is just DR. Okay. When you are going for DR deployment, we have something called metro availability. Okay. So we are having something called metro availability. So in the metro availability, we have something called witness VM. So don't worry, we will discuss everything in the respective module. DR we have a respective model, but everything has a dependency with Prism Central. So when metro availability, witness is something called witness. There is a witness, agent, and VM. So why do we need this? If I go with metro availability, what is metro availability? It's a synchronous replication. Synchronous replication. In the synchronous replication, we have manual failover and automatic failover. Okay. So manual failover, as an administrator, you have to failover in case of disaster. But here, witness VM will do the failover. Okay. So if your customer is preferring for automatic failover, then you have to propose them witness VM. So now where do you deploy the witness VM? Where do you deploy the witness VM? Okay. So as I said, witness comes in two flavor. One is agent, and then other one is the additional VM. So if it is agent, that agent is running inside the Prism Central. Okay. Witness agent is running inside the PC. Okay. If I decided to choose witness agent, witness agent running inside the Prism Central, then I have to use single PC, single PC, single PC domain. It can be a single one PC or three PC, but that's fine. I'm talking about domain. Single PC domain to manage all the sites. Okay, because I'm planning to use witness agent, which is sitting inside the Prism Central. In that case, I'll have to use the single Prism Central domain to manage all the site. Okay. So in this case, they are going to use a single Prism Central domain to manage all the sites. In that case, they will use inbuilt agent, which is witness for automatic DR failover or automatic DR. Okay. And now let's take a scenario. There are two teams playing cricket match and you have a referee. The referee will be a third person, not from either one of the team, right? You can't take, from the, you can't decide someone to be a, referee from, those two teams. So he will be a different person who has no relationship with these two teams because so that we believe that he can make a decision legally and, loyally, right? So likewise, here, if I want to deploy a failover, a witness failover, DR failover, then I need a witness. Witness is something like a referee. That referee will be sitting in the third place. I mean, he should be from the third, availability zone or third fault domain. So, like cricket, two teams, referee is from different team or different person. Likewise, here a witness is going to decide who is down, who is up. So witness need to be a third person or third side. So we have to give him a separate site. He may not he for an example, if I'm going to enable DR between Chennai and Bangalore, this witness needs to be deployed in Hyderabad. If I'm going to enable a DR between Chennai and Hyderabad, this witness has to be deployed or this Prism Center has to be deployed in Bangalore location because we are going to use a single Prism Central domain with inbuilt agent, which is a witness agent. In that case, where do we deploy Prism Central? This Prism Central need to be deployed in the third site. If Chennai to Bangalore, if I am enabling DR, Hyderabad is going to be my DR site with PC site. If I'm going to enable Chennai and Delhi, I probably decide Hyderabad or Bangalore to host my Prism Central site. Okay, so that's a design here. So if you are going with single Prism Central domain, that Prism Central domain needs to be deployed in the third site. Whereas if I don't have a third site, let's take a scenario. Customer is having Chennai, Bangalore. Okay, customer has only two location, no third location. In that case, you can't deploy single PC in the third site because no third data center. So you have to deploy PC in each site. Okay, so this is PC domain 1. This is PC domain 2, and then I'll deploy something called witness VM. Okay, so sorry, I take my point. I said I have no tool third location. No, not that one. I'm talking about witness VM and witness agent. How do you decide where do you want to use witness VM and where do you want to use witness agent? Witness VM, witness agent. So witness VM, it's a separate VM, not PCVM. And witness agent, this is inside the PCVM. Okay, inside the PCVM. So if I take this approach, witness VM approach, then you minimum required, I'll take this point. Okay, Chennai and Bangalore. Let's take this customer is having third site, Hyderabad. Okay. And he probably have one cluster here. Okay. And in this site, he will deploy witness VM. He doesn't use the agent, no agent here. Okay. So we have two sites. Between these two sites, we are going to enable DR, but I'm inviting a third person to do the referee role. The third person is Hyderabad. There I have a one cluster, and there I deployed witness VM. So witness VM is my referee. Okay. So now how do I enable DR? PC1 to PC2, I enable DR. My referee is going to be witness VM. He is in the third site. If this site one goes down, this witness VM will decide, okay, he is out. You take the no ownership now. You do all the VMs running. You make sure you activate HA and run all the VMs. So now witness VM deployment also matters, and this is also key role in the PC deployment. So here and there we mixed so many things. We discuss about availability zone, and then we discuss about Prism Central type, and then we discuss about DR, witness VM. A lot of things we discuss. But before designing the PC deployment, all these key factors are matters. And once we have a good clarity about all this, then we will getting a clear understanding of PC deployment. Okay. So now in this training, we have dedicatedly give a separate module for Prism Central. In the Prism Central section, we are going to do the deployment, Prism Central deployment. Prism Central can be deployed in, Nutanix ESXi cluster and non-Nutanix environment. Okay. PC can be deployed in non-Nutanix environment, but we also need to understand the use case of this, in which scenario we can go for this, and then how we can deploy the Prism Central, how do we register, how do we unregister, deleting the PC, Prism Central redeployment of PC, what is the procedure? Because this is quite a complex procedure, so we are also covering that here. Once we have a clear understanding about PC, we are getting into the DR section. So this is where we are going to have a DR, Nutanix DR, and synchronous replication, metro feature, witness VM, and stretch network. All this we are going to discuss here. And in the IP section, we will be also discussing about IP requirement for the entire cluster along with Prism Central. Okay, this will be covered on this entire module. Any questions? Scenario: if only two sites, can we deploy witness in any one of the sites? See, technically you can deploy it, but what's the advantage you get? That's you get only 50% of a benefit. Let's take you have two sites. If you see this one. Okay, I have only two sites, Chennai and Bangalore. Now, where do I deploy my witness VM? So his question is, can I deploy witness VM here? Yes, you can do that. But I tell you the example like cricket match. Two teams are playing cricket, team A and B. And can you get someone from team A, like, team A? And then we have team B, team A and team B here, 12 members and here 12 members. So now what you're doing, you're calling someone from team A to be a referee. Okay. So he can do the referee role, but how much, loyal he is and how much genuine he is, that matters. So he'll be one-sided. Rare cases, right? Rare cases, he can be, genuine person, but since he is from team A, he will be a one-sided, right? Likewise, if I deploy witness VM on Chennai side, it will be a one-sided. If the Chennai side goes down, the witness also goes down. In that case, witness cannot do the automatic failover here. So let's take Bangalore goes down. So if the Bangalore side goes down, witness is still running because witness is in the Chennai side. So witness can still do the automatic failover. But if Chennai side goes down, where the witness VM also hosted, then automatic failover will not happen because witness is a person, he is also now down. So you get only the 50% of benefit. Yeah, right. Okay. So this is why we actually recommend to go for third site, identify the third site and deploy the Prism Central. Sorry, deploy the witness VM. Okay. So now again, take this two site. Okay. So now let's take a scenario. Now customer is having third site in Hyderabad and he is decided to use that as a witness. So now can he deploy PC based agent or he has to go witness VM? That's a question now. So my customer is having 3 data center. So now his question is, should I go for PC based agent or witness VM? Okay. If you have a protection 3-node, minimum 3-node Nutanix cluster running in Hyderabad location, then you can go for PC based agent. You can deploy PC in the Hyderabad site. Using this single PC, you can manage these 3 location and your witness agent is running here. That agent will decide who can do the failover. It does the automatic failover. Okay. So I repeat again, I have 3 location now. If I have a 3-node or minimum 3-node, or you can say 3+ node, Nutanix cluster in Hyderabad, you can deploy the Prism Central in the Hyderabad site. In the Prism Central, you have a witness agent. You can use the witness agent to enable automatic failover between these 2 locations. But whereas if I don't have a Nutanix cluster, a 3-node cluster here, then you have to ask your customer to go for 1-node Nutanix cluster deployment. If customer says 1-node Nutanix cluster, then deploy PC here, and witness VM can be deployed here. Okay. So now I hope you have a clear understanding where I can go with single PC and witness agent, and where I can go site-based Prism Central and then witness VM. So if I have 3 location in this both of the example, you have 3 location, but what is missing in the third location here, you don't have a 3+node Nutanix cluster, and here you have a 3+node Nutanix cluster. If you have 3+node Nutanix cluster, you can deploy Prism Central. Because if you want production based Prism Central, then you minimum require 3+node Nutanix cluster. Okay, 3 or more node Nutanix cluster is mandatory to deploy production level Prism Central. But another example, my customer doesn't have a 3-node cluster. I ask them to go for 1-node cluster because witness can be deployed only in the Nutanix cluster. Witness VM cannot be deployed in ESXi. So there is a different example where we can deploy witness on ESXi, but with respect to DR, witness VM cannot be deployed in the ESXi. So I have to go for 1-node Nutanix cluster at least. Some customer says, I can't buy 3-node because I don't have a budget. In that case, okay, you go for 1-node cluster, install Nutanix AHV, and then create a witness VM. And other 2 sites deploy dedicated Prism Central. So this is PC domain 1, and this is PC domain 2. So now the failover is domain 1 to domain 2 by witness VM. But here, Chennai, Bangalore, cluster to cluster using Prism Central agent. This is within availability zone. I already said, right? This is AZ1, this is AZ2. AZ to AZ, we are doing the failover, but here single PC, so single AZ. In single AZ, we have multiple cluster. From Chennai and Bangalore, we have multiple cluster, but here also we'll have multiple cluster, but those multiple cluster are from single location only, not the multiple location. Okay, I do understand you still have a lot of questions. Maybe still it confused. I have only I only took the high level view of PC and DR, but here we have a dedicated module where we are going to spend this more detail. I'll be going to spend this witness and everything in this module section completely. And PC also have a dedicated day for that. We are going to do the discussion and deployment of Prism Central separately. Okay. But just remember, this PC is very, very important, because if your customer is focusing DR, then Prism Center is very important one. PC has different flavors and different deployment model that all like matters. Okay. And even after this, once you decided how many how you are going to deploy PC, so you ask your customer, hey, do you have third site? If customer says yes, I have third site, then next question is, hey, do you have 3 node Nutanix cluster? If customer says yes, okay, I'm happy, I'll deploy the PC in the third site now, and I'll use the PC witness v agent which is running inside the Prism Center. If customer says, hey, I don't have 3 node cluster, then you mandatorily you have to buy 1 node cluster, get the 1 node cluster. I deploy witness VM in the 1 node cluster, and each location I deploy the dedicated Prism Center. Then PC to PC, I enable failover. Here within the PC, cluster to cluster, I enable DR. Here PC to PC or AZ to AZ, availability zone to availability zone, I'll do the failover and failback. Okay. Now I stop here. We still have a lot of things to discuss here. I'm going to explain, these like small, larger, X large or X small, how, when I need to take this, and 1 VM or 3 VM, when I need to take this, what is the advantage I get? Okay. All that, like, can we migrate from small to larger, or larger to X large, or X large to larger downgrade? Can we do that? Can we delete the Prism Central? Can we deploy the Prism Central, after deletion? A lot of things we have to discuss, that everything we'll be discussing in this training. And along with that, we have a lot of different use cases here. Like in the module section, we are going to talk about cluster services. I take every service. Some of the service we do the we failover testing, like we shut down the service and we will see what is getting impacted, and does it has any downtime, or how system behaves in case if there is a failure of particular service. All that we are going to demonstrate. Okay. Like Stargate, Cassandra, Zookeep, Genesis, Acrobat, these are the very important services that we will be discussing. Not just theory, we are also going to run some commands. We view the each and every service configuration, and see the log files for each one of the services. That complete analyze we do it for the critical services. And model to storage architecture. A lot of people know that Nutanix use the RAID, the first 2 SSD, we have a software RAID, but how the RAID gets created, where can we check the RAID settings? What happen if one of the RAID goes down? One of the disk in the RAID goes down. All that we shut down the RAID, we stop the RAID, and then all that we do it in the this section. Then we have oplog. Oplog is a place which this where random data gets stored. We will see the benefit of oplog, how this is related to the VM performance, if random data performance, and then storage partitions, metadata, CVM data position in the disk, all that we'll be discussing in the storage architecture. Module 3 and Module 4, we already discussed PCNP, DR. And then failure handling, what happens, Stargate fails, log analysis, bringing the Stargate online, different CLIs, disk failure, what happens if the disk fails in my system? We have a lot of data, like guest VM data, metadata, configuration data. So what happened to each of these data when the disk fails? And then here we have failure handling. See what happens, CVM fails, how to repair the CVM, how to reinstall the CVM, how to generate Phoenix image, how to do that hypervisor troubleshooting, M.2 troubleshooting, hypervisor installation, proactive and reactive, data path redundancy, and virtual IO driver. Okay. And then flow in the module 7, this is a micro segmentation feature, advanced networking from Nutanix, and PC is required for this. we will be doing a lab along with understanding this each and every feature and how you can design this, how you can recommend this feature to your customer. Okay, that complete end-to-end deployment like CRD discussion, getting the requirement from your customer, documenting that into a design, and then doing the implementation of this product. Okay. Then module 8, VLAN and port connectivity. This is for every deployment. This is very important because without that, you will struck because when you have a firewall based environment, you will not be able to set up the cluster if you don't have a proper ports enabled. And that complete proper port connectivity dependency we are going to discuss. Like port needs to be open for foundation VM, then DC to DR for the DR connectivity, CVM to Prism Central. If these are in different subnet, then we have certain ports to be opened, and then guest VLAN to CVM IPMA host. That port mapping need to be ports needs to be opened, and then how to change the CVM name, how to change the host to VLAN, IP procedure. That all we'll be discussing in the module 8. Module 9 is volumes. This is a separate product. How to provide storage to the non-Nutanix server. I have a old server which has no storage. Can I connect those storage to the server with Nutanix storage? Yes, you can do that. That's with Nutanix volume. It's an ISCSI based storage. Then IP configuration, design your IPs, subnets, how to configure these IPs. We have something called iSCSI data services IP, cluster IP, how the failover work for these IPs, where these IPs are getting configured, all that we are going to see, and then accessing some of the files from the storage container using the WinACP, and then VM disk access we will be seeing in the IP configuration. Module 11 is a design preparation. This is where, we'll provide some templates for HLD, LLD. That will be helpful for you to go and prepare for your customer. If customer says, hey, can you prepare the high level design or low level design? You probably look for some template. Once you have the template, you also need to know how to prepare these designs, right? That assistance, complete assistance we will provide. When you go for a deployment, customer will share you the bill of materials. First, you need to review the bill of material, what needs to be checked properly. And after reviewing the bill of material, what questions you should ask to your customer, then everything we will do it. And then we also need to set up the service account for the customer, Nutanix service account, because that's where they receive the licensing information, everything that we will see that. And once we finish up this design is very important stage. Once we finish up this, then we'll get into the advanced troubleshooting. So we have something called Nutanix Central. That's another product. Prism Central we've seen, but Nutanix Central is a different product. Changing the CVM, recycle bin, how to reclaim the license, how to harden your environment, generating the TLS, then SSL related, and then importing the SSL. These are like security related side that will be covered. Okay. So this training is not for the beginner. This is only for the people who have good experience, because I'm not going to cover anything on the basic side. Stargate and other side we have already covered in the basics training. So I don't tell how the Stargate, what is Stargate, how it works, because I don't want to waste your time by again and talking, talking basic things again and again. So I directly get into the advanced side of Stargate. I'll take you to the CLI. I'll shut down the service and do the failover. And because Stargate is, that it's responsible for IO, read and writing the data. If Stargate goes down, you can't read or you can't write the data local server. In that case, how my VMs can access the data, right? That we will demonstrate in the Stargate section here in the Stargate failover. But here we will be understanding about the architecture of Stargate, Cassandra, Zookeeper, the Genesis, and Acropolis. So this is complete and advanced training, and you will not be able to see most of this information in the document. Maybe by referring multiple document, you can get some clarity, but you can't find a single document to talk about SSD RAID, RAID lock, how to check all that. So these are based on my experience with all my customer. I prepared this use cases, and we are going to demonstrate in this training. So now I stop here. This is planned for, overall, it's going to be a 6 weekend, Saturday and Sunday, morning. It will be like 2 hours session. If you have any questions, people who come from my reference, you can reach out to me. If you have, Amit contact, you can also reach out to Amit. He'll be able to, help you with further process. But overall, these are the different scope we are actually planning to cover for this training. If you have anything additional, if you have any requirement, just share it with us. We will see if we can accommodate that. And yes, I stop here now. Probably Amit will, and I know, give you a permission to talk. If you have any question, please you can ask me. But a lot of people ask me about the lab. We don't provide lab, but we'll be able to help you out to set up your own lab, and we can also give you some way to access the demo labs, which is free of cost, coming from Nutanix. You can't get 100 percentage features, but at least it helps you 80 percentage. We will also help you out with that. But labs we will not be able to provide, because these setting up these requires heavy and heavy resources, so we can't give for every participant. So that's something you have to take care of that. Okay. So now I stop here. If you have any question, just let me know. Maybe you can use the chat window to post your question. Can we also include anything on security and hardening on Nutanix? Yes, it will be included. I also noted down we have a few security concept like SSL and TLS. Hardening is also there in the scope. Let me show you that. I hope you can see my screen. So in the advanced troubleshooting, we have a hardening, generate TLS, SSL, and then there is something called DAR. Probably I'll include the DAR section, DAR here. DAR means data at rest encryption. So probably I'll include DAR here. That's quite common feature. Okay. So now any question?
What will be the timing for these sessions, Paul, over the weekend?
We are planning for morning batch, Indian IST, Saturday, Sunday morning, probably 7 to 9. But Amit will reach out to you if you have any concern.
Okay,
Just check. Amit will able to assist you.
sure. Thank
Yeah. Okay. I'll just give you 5 minutes. If you have any question, just let me know. If you want one-to-one discussion with me or Amit, you can reach out to Amit. He will be able to assist you. Okay, Amit, contact details. Amit, are you there? Okay, let me share the details here. So Amit number I'll be posting here. Probably you can reach out to him. And people who knows me, you can directly reach out to me.